What happens when a music legend sits down for what should be a simple interview, only to face questions that cut deeper than any critic ever dared? In just 33 seconds, one comment from Jennifer Hudson would shatter the carefully built facade of daytime television, politeness, and expose the ugly truth about how legends get treated in their own industry. The studio lights were hot that Tuesday morning as Chaka walked onto the set of The Jennifer Hudson Show. She moved with the grace of someone who had commanded stages for over 5 decades. Her voice had powered through disco, funk, soul, and R&B. She was royalty. She was the queen of funk, and she deserved nothing less than the respect that title commanded. Jennifer Hudson sat behind her desk, shuffling through note cards with that practiced smile that talk show hosts perfect over years of fake enthusiasm. The audience was already warmed up, ready to cheer for whatever scripted moment would unfold. But neither the host nor the crowd was prepared for what was about to happen. "Welcome back to the show," Jennifer said to the cameras, her voice carrying that overly bright tone that screams morning television. "I'm here with the incredible Chaka Khan, and we're going to talk about her amazing career." Chaka settled into the guest chair, her posture straight and dignified. She had done thousands of interviews. This was supposed to be routine. A few questions about her latest project, maybe a story about the old days, and then a polite goodbye. She had no idea that Jennifer had prepared something completely different. "So Chaka," Jennifer began, leaning forward with what looked like genuine interest but felt like something else entirely. "You've been in this business for a really long time." The phrasing was already wrong. Not, "You've had an incredible career," or "Your influence spans generations." Instead, Jennifer chose words that made Chaka's 5 decades of groundbreaking music sound like she had simply been hanging around too long. Chaka's smile tightened just slightly. "Yes, I've been blessed to share my music with people for many years. And you've seen so many changes," Jennifer continued, still wearing that plastic smile. "I mean, the music industry is completely different now. Artists today have to be so much more than just singers. They have to be performers, business people, social media stars." There it was, the subtle dig. The implication that Chaka was from a simpler time when all you had to do was show up and sing, as if building a career without the internet, without streaming, without social media, was somehow easier. As if Chaka hadn't fought for every opportunity in an industry that was even more closed off to women, especially black women, than it is today. "Well, Jennifer," Chaka replied, her voice still controlled but with a hint of steel creeping in, "we had to fight for everything back then. There were no shortcuts, no auto-tune, no second chances. You got one shot in the studio, and you better make it count." Jennifer laughed, but it wasn't a warm sound. "Oh, I'm not saying it was easy. I just think artists today have so many more challenges. The competition is so much fiercer now." Chaka's eyebrows rose slightly. Competition was fiercer now? This young woman, sitting in her comfortable talk show chair, was going to lecture her about competition? Chaka had competed against Diana Ross, Aretha Franklin, and Stevie Wonder. She had fought for radio play when stations wouldn't touch music by black women. She had built her career note by note, show by show, in an era when the music industry was run entirely by men who saw women as decoration, not artists. "Competition has always been fierce," Chaka said, her voice getting a little sharper. "The difference is we didn't have reality shows to make us famous overnight. We had to earn our place." The audience shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't going according to whatever script they had expected. Jennifer's smile became more forced. Of course," Jennifer said quickly, trying to steer back to safer ground. "Your hits like 'I'm Every Woman' and 'Ain't Nobody' are still so popular today. Although, I have to ask, do you ever feel like your style of music is becoming a little outdated?" The question hung in the air like a bad smell. The audience went completely silent. Even the cameras seemed to freeze for a moment. Chaka stared at Jennifer with the kind of look that could melt steel. Outdated? The woman whose voice had influenced everyone from Whitney Houston to Beyoncé was being called outdated by someone who had gotten famous singing other people's songs on a television competition? "Outdated?" Chaka repeated, her voice dangerously quiet. Jennifer must have realized she had crossed a line, but instead of backing down, she doubled down. "Well, music today is so different. It's more electronic, more produced. Young people want something they can relate to." "Are you suggesting," Chaka said slowly, each word carefully measured, "that my music isn't relatable? That 5 decades of songs that have gotten people through heartbreak, celebration, and everything in between are somehow less meaningful than whatever auto-tune nonsense is popular this week?" The temperature in the room dropped about 20 degrees. Jennifer's smile finally cracked. "I didn't mean it like that," she said quickly. "I just meant that the sound has evolved." "Evolved?" Chaka leaned forward, her eyes flashing. "Baby, I was evolving before you were born. I was mixing genres when people thought that was impossible. I was writing songs about women's empowerment when that was revolutionary. Don't you dare sit there and tell me about evolution." Jennifer looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. But she had started this fire, and now she was going to get burned by it. "I think there might be some misunderstanding here," Jennifer tried to say, but Chaka wasn't having it. "Oh, there's no misunderstanding," Chaka replied, her voice rising just enough to cut through any pretense of politeness. "You invited me on your show to disrespect me, to make me look like some old relic who doesn't understand modern music. Let me tell you something about modern music, sweetheart. Half these young artists you're talking about sample my songs. They build their hits on my foundation. And you want to call me outdated?" The audience was completely silent now, watching this legendary artist defend herself against a host who had clearly bitten off more than she could chew. Some people in the crowd looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats. Others looked fascinated, like they were watching a masterclass in how to handle disrespect. Jennifer tried one more time to salvage the situation. "Chaka, I really think we're having a miscommunication here. I have nothing but respect for your legacy." "Legacy?" Chaka stood up from her chair, and suddenly she seemed 10 feet tall. "My legacy? Honey, I'm not legacy. I'm current. I'm present. And I'm not going to sit here and let you treat me like I'm some museum piece you dragged out for nostalgia points. Please, if we could just..." Jennifer started, but Chaka had heard enough. "No, we couldn't just anything," Chaka interrupted, her voice now carrying the full power that had made her famous. "You had your chance to conduct a respectful interview with someone who has paved the way for artists like you. Instead, you chose to be condescending and dismissive. That's on you, not me." Jennifer looked around desperately, probably hoping her producers would cut to commercial or do something, anything, to stop this train wreck that she had caused. But the cameras kept rolling, and Chaka Khan kept talking. "You know what your problem is?" Chaka continued, her voice cutting through the stunned silence of the studio. "You think because you won a singing competition and got some movie roles that you understand this business? You think you can sit behind this desk and judge artists who were changing the world while you were still in diapers?" The words hit like physical blows. Jennifer's face went from embarrassed pink to deep red. She had completely lost control of her own show, and everyone in that studio knew it. "I never meant to judge," Jennifer said weakly, but her voice sounded small and hollow compared to Chaka's commanding presence. "But that's exactly what you did," Chaka replied, gathering up her purse from beside the chair. "And the sad part is, you probably don't even realize how disrespectful you're being. That's what makes it worse." The studio felt like a pressure cooker about to explode. Chaka Khan stood there with her purse in hand, looking down at Jennifer Hudson with the kind of disappointment that cuts deeper than anger. The audience sat frozen, afraid to even breathe too loudly. Jennifer tried to recover some control. "Chaka, please, let's just take a breath and start over. I think we got off on the wrong foot here." "Start over?" Chaka's voice carried a dangerous edge. "Honey, there is no starting over from disrespect. You don't get to insult someone and then ask for a do-over when you realize you messed up." "I wasn't trying to insult you," Jennifer protested, her voice getting higher with desperation. "I was just trying to have a conversation about how the music industry has changed." "By calling my music outdated?" Chaka shot back. "By suggesting that real artistry is somehow less valuable than whatever manufactured nonsense passes for music today? That wasn't a conversation. That was an attack." Jennifer looked around the studio, her eyes searching for help from her producers, her audience, anyone. But she was on her own now. She had created this disaster, and no one else could fix it for her. "Look, maybe I chose my words poorly," Jennifer tried again, her voice shaking slightly. "But I was genuinely interested in your perspective on how things have changed." "No, you weren't," Chaka replied firmly. "You were trying to make yourself look relevant by making me look irrelevant. You were trying to position yourself as the voice of modern music by suggesting that I'm some relic from the past. That's not journalism, that's just mean." The truth of those words hit the studio like a thunderbolt. Even some of the crew members behind the cameras were shaking their heads. They could see what their host had done, and it wasn't pretty. Jennifer's composure was completely cracking now. "I would never try to make you look irrelevant. You're a legend. Everyone knows that." "Then why didn't you treat me like one?" Chaka demanded. "Why did every single one of your questions have some kind of backhanded insult buried in it?" Why couldn't you just ask me about my music without suggesting that it doesn't matter anymore? Because Jennifer started, then stopped herself. For a moment, it looked like she might actually tell the truth about whatever had motivated this disaster of an interview. Because you what? Chaka pressed. Because you thought you could get some viral moment by being disrespectful to someone who's been in this business longer than you've been alive? Because you thought putting down a legend would somehow make you look bigger? Jennifer's face went white. Chaka had hit the nail on the head, and everyone in that studio knew it. This wasn't an accident or a miscommunication. This was calculated disrespect, designed to create drama. That's not true, Jennifer said, but her voice had no conviction left in it. Isn't it? Chaka challenged. Then explain to me why you invited me here just to question whether my music still matters. Explain why you thought it was appropriate to suggest that I don't understand the modern music business. Explain why you felt the need to talk down to me like I'm some confused old woman who wandered onto your set by mistake. The audience was completely captivated now. This wasn't just an argument between two celebrities anymore. This was a masterclass in dignity under fire. Chaka Khan was showing everyone watching how to respond to disrespect with class and power. Jennifer tried one more desperate attempt at damage control. Chaka, I think you're misinterpreting my intentions. I have so much respect for you and your career. I grew up listening to your music. Then you should know better, Chaka snapped back. If you really grew up listening to my music, then you understand what it means. You know that songs like I'm Every Woman weren't just hits. They were anthems. They gave people strength. They changed lives. And you want to sit there and call that outdated? I didn't call it outdated, Jennifer protested weakly. Yes, you did, Chaka replied without hesitation. You asked me if I felt like my style of music was becoming outdated. Those were your exact words. Don't try to rewrite history when we're all sitting here remembering what you just said 5 minutes ago. The camera operators were having a field day. This was the kind of unscripted television that rarely happens, and they were capturing every devastating moment of it. Jennifer looked like she was drowning. I was asking about musical evolution, not suggesting that your music doesn't have value. By framing it as outdated versus modern, Chaka shot back. By suggesting that young people can't relate to real music. By acting like artistry is somehow less important than being a social media star. You weren't asking about evolution. You were making judgments. I wasn't making judgments, Jennifer insisted, but even she didn't sound convinced anymore. Then, what would you call it? Chaka asked, her voice rising with righteous anger. What do you call sitting there suggesting that my 5 decades of groundbreaking music somehow doesn't measure up to whatever auto-tuned, computer-generated, focus group-tested nonsense is popular this week? The words hit like bullets. Jennifer flinched with each one, finally understanding the full scope of what she had done wrong. I never said your music doesn't measure up, Jennifer said desperately. You didn't have to say it directly, Chaka replied. You implied it with every question. You implied it when you suggested that artists today have more challenges. You implied it when you asked if my style was outdated. You implied it when you acted like being a social media star is somehow more impressive than changing the course of popular music. The studio was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning humming. Everyone was watching this legendary artist systematically dismantle a host who had thought she could score easy points by being dismissive. Jennifer made one final attempt to salvage something from this wreckage. Chaka, I'm sorry if my questions came across the wrong way. That wasn't my intention. Your intention doesn't matter anymore, Chaka replied coldly. What matters is what you actually did. And what you did was invite a music legend onto your show just to disrespect her on national television. That says everything anyone needs to know about your character and your professionalism. Please don't say that, Jennifer begged, her voice almost breaking. I really didn't mean any disrespect. But that's what you delivered, Chaka replied without mercy. And the worst part is, you probably still don't understand why what you did was so wrong. You probably think I'm overreacting to some innocent questions. Jennifer opened her mouth to respond, but Chaka wasn't finished. Let me explain something to you, Chaka continued, her voice carrying the weight of decades of experience. When you've been fighting for respect in this business as long as I have, you learn to recognize disrespect in all its forms. And honey, you served me a full plate of it today. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Some of them were starting to look at Jennifer with disappointment rather than sympathy. The tide was turning completely against the host. I don't know what to say, Jennifer admitted, her voice small and defeated. There's nothing left to say, Chaka replied, adjusting her purse strap with finality. You said everything you needed to say with your questions. Now I'm saying everything I need to say with my response. The moment hung there like a sword ready to drop. Everyone in that studio knew they were watching something unprecedented unfold. The silence stretched on for what felt like forever. Jennifer Hudson sat behind her desk, looking like she had been hit by a truck, while Chaka stood there radiating the kind of power that comes from knowing you're absolutely right. Finally, Jennifer broke the silence with one last desperate attempt. "Chaka, what can I do to make this right?" Chaka looked at her with something that might have been pity. "You can't make this right. Some things can't be undone once they're done. You chose to be disrespectful, and now you have to live with the consequences of that choice." "But surely there's something," Jennifer pleaded. "Some way we can move past this." "Move past it?" Chaka's voice carried a bitter laugh. "You want to move past the fact that you used your platform to diminish a woman who helped build the foundation that your career stands on? You want to just sweep under the rug that you thought it was okay to call music that has inspired generations outdated?" Jennifer looked around the studio again, her eyes wide with panic. "I never meant to diminish you or your music. What you meant doesn't change what you did," Chaka replied sharply. "And what you did was show your true colors. You showed everyone watching that you think success gives you the right to look down on the people who came before you." The audience was completely transfixed. Many of them had their phones out, recording every word of this historic confrontation. They knew they were witnessing something that would be talked about for years. "That's not who I am," Jennifer said, her voice cracking with emotion. "Then who are you?" Chaka challenged. "Because the person I've been talking to for the last 20 minutes is someone who thinks she can insult legends and get away with it. The person I've been talking to is someone who believes that being on television gives her the right to judge artists who were changing the world before she was even born." Jennifer's eyes were starting to fill with tears, but Chaka showed no mercy. "You want to know what's really sad about this?" Chaka continued. "You had a chance to have a real conversation with someone who's been through everything this business can throw at you. You could have asked me about the struggles, the victories, the lessons learned. Instead, you chose to waste everyone's time with these insulting questions designed to make me look irrelevant." "I'm so sorry," Jennifer whispered, but the words sounded hollow in the tense air of the studio. "Sorry doesn't fix this," Chaka replied coldly. "Sorry doesn't erase the disrespect. Sorry doesn't change the fact that you thought it was okay to treat me like some museum piece that you dragged out for ratings." The camera operators were capturing every moment of Jennifer's complete breakdown. This was television gold, but it was coming at the complete destruction of the host's credibility. "Please," Jennifer begged, "please don't leave like this." Chaka stopped and turned back to face her fully. "Like what? With my dignity intact? With my self-respect still in place? With my head held high because I refused to let someone half my age talk down to me on national television? Jennifer started, but Chaka cut her off. "You just what? You just thought you could get away with it? You just assumed I would sit there quietly and take whatever disrespect you wanted to dish out? You just figured that because I'm from an older generation, I wouldn't know how to defend myself?" Each question hit like a physical blow. Jennifer was visibly shrinking in her chair, looking smaller and more defeated with every word. "That's not what I thought," Jennifer protested weakly. "Then you're either lying or you're not as smart as you think you are," Chaka shot back, "because everything about your behavior today suggests that you thought exactly that." The studio audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word of this devastating takedown. Some of them looked shocked, others looked impressed, but all of them knew they were watching something extraordinary. "I don't know how to fix this," Jennifer admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "You can't fix it," Chaka replied with brutal honesty. "Some mistakes are permanent. Some disrespect can't be undone. All you can do now is learn from it and hope you never make the same mistake again." Jennifer looked like she wanted to disappear entirely. "Will you ever be able to forgive me?" Chaka considered the question for a moment, her expression softening just slightly. "Maybe someday, but forgiveness has to be earned, and earning it starts with understanding what you did wrong, really understanding it, not just apologizing because you got caught." "I'm trying to understand," Jennifer said desperately. "No, you're not," Chaka replied firmly. "You're trying to make this go away. You're trying to find some magic words that will fix what you broke. But understanding means accepting that you chose to be disrespectful to someone who deserved better. Understanding means admitting that you used your platform to tear down instead of build up." The truth of those words settled over the studio like a heavy blanket. Even the crew members looked uncomfortable as they watched their host get systematically dismantled by someone who clearly knew how to handle herself. "What do I do now?" Jennifer asked, sounding like a lost child. "Now you deal with the consequences," Chaka replied without sympathy. "Now you explain to your producers why your guest walked off your show. Now you figure out how to salvage whatever's left of your credibility after treating a music legend like garbage on live television." Jennifer's face crumpled at those words. The full weight of what she had done was finally hitting her. "This is going to ruin everything," Jennifer said, more to herself than to anyone else. "Maybe it should," Chaka replied coldly. "Maybe someone who thinks it's okay to disrespect legends shouldn't have a platform to begin with." Those words hung in the air like a death sentence. The audience gasped audibly, finally understanding that they had just witnessed the complete destruction of a talk show host's career. "I never wanted this to happen," Jennifer said, tears now openly streaming down her face. "But you caused it to happen," Chaka replied with devastating finality. "Every choice you made today led to this moment. Every question you asked, every dismissive comment you made, every attempt to diminish my legacy brought us right here." Jennifer looked around the studio one more time, seeking help that wasn't coming. Her producers were probably in the control room having heart attacks. Her audience was staring at her with a mixture of pity and disappointment. Her career was imploding in real time. "I guess this is goodbye then," Jennifer said, her voice broken and defeated. "Yes, it is," Chaka replied simply. She adjusted her purse one final time and looked directly into the cameras. "To everyone watching at home, remember this. Respect is not optional. When someone has paid their dues, when someone has earned their place, when someone has spent decades contributing to the culture, you treat them with the dignity they deserve. Period." With that, Chaka Khan walked off the set with her head held high, leaving behind a shattered host and a studio full of people who had just witnessed television history. The Queen of Funk had reminded everyone why legends earn their crowns, and why some people should never be given platforms they're not mature enough to handle responsibly.